The problem women of colour in the workplace. Women are advancing in the workplace, but women of colour are being left behind. In 2018, CocoNet produced this diagram that is labelled The Problem Women of Colour in the Workplace, which establishes the fact that although women overall are advancing in the workplace, women of colour are still left behind, which results in higher chances of women of colour resigning from their work establishment. Although all women face sexism, women of colour face the double burden of sexism and racism, which can be experienced within and outside of the workplace. This ideology links to Crenshaw's theory of intersectionality that was created in 1989. Crenshaw identifies intersectionality as a cross-section within culture in which different social aspects cross over. For example, in this case, a woman of colour is at the cross-section between sexism and racism. Therefore, this redefines a lack in privilege here that ultimately leads to women of colour with a disadvantage. Leanin and McKinsey noted that during their research of a study of women in promotions and work, each ethnic minority had a higher percentage of women who wanted to be provided a promotion at work than white women. Similarly, research has stated that black women are often more ambitious and more likely to want a promotion than their white co-workers, however, are less likely to be provided the opportunity, as they lack the support from mentors that will help them climb the corporate ladder. For example, sociologist Malaku states that this is often due to white executives' feelings of discomfort around black women as they are unfamiliar with them. Malaku notes that white executives feel uncomfortable and unfamiliar with black women in the workplace because they often do not socialise with black females in their personal and professional lives. She also notes that it can be intentional exclusion. This leads to a harder struggle for black employees to access and advance their career, in which occupational underrepresentation and wage disparities show evidence for. Similarly, a study by Chin found that it is not only black women who face this struggle, but also Asian and Latinas. For example, Asian American women often face racialized and gendered forms of sexual harassment that leads to isolation at work and exclusion from leadership opportunities. Latinas have also stated that their co-workers often believe that all Latinas are unintelligent and illegally living in the country, in which these depictions lead to extra work requirements to disprove these statements. Due to these factors, women of colour are highly underrepresented in professional high-status jobs within law, medicine, academia and business. And when they do achieve these roles, they are often the only woman of colour within the organisational setting, which leads to a series of doubts of the company's DEI commitments, making it more likely for the woman of colour to leave the organisation and pursue a career elsewhere. Throughout the civil rights movement, policies and actions were put into place to encourage DEI in work for women. However, these policies and actions disproportionately benefited the white women and is still evident within today's workplace cultures. Race and racism create a unique set of challenges for women of colour that are very much ignored with broad platitudes that seek to advance women's representation without the depth of thought into which women are most likely to benefit and who it leaves behind. When a woman of colour signs up for a job, not only are they signing up to do the job, but they are often signing up to the norms of bias, discrimination and microaggression that comes with being at the intersection of identity. So how can you improve the experience for women of colour during their working life? You need to actively listen and allow women of colour to be the voice. It is all well saying that you want to improve the working conditions for women of colour, but if you aren't really allowing them to share their feelings, their thoughts and experiences, how can you really improve? Promotions are for all. In order to become a DEI cultured workplace, there must be DEI within the entire corporate ladder. So having women of colour on the management sector who have worked to be there allows role models for other women of colour amongst the ladder, a voice for women of colour and overall a happier work environment. Training is key. Providing training to help improve DEI within the workplace will allow for a safer workplace for all, discouraging acts of discrimination and harassment, which means that sanctions can be given to those who discriminate. Take all reports seriously. Many reports of discrimination and harassment have been raised by women of colour, and ultimately they've had them ignored by managers and other leaders. All reports should be taken seriously to encourage a safe working environment. Providing a safe space. In order for reports to be taken seriously, there needs to be a sector of fully trained HR leaders that reports of discrimination can be handled. At Belonging Pioneers, we strive to improve workplace culture for all. It should also be a priority within your workplace. So take some time to complete this survey that looks into the power of privilege.